Trump, you can't blame me because I did everything under POTUS. Trump asked the judge to dismiss DC's lawsuit against him. Donald Trump asked for the first time Thursday to dismiss the allegations of meddling in the DC election against him, saying that everything he was accused of was part of his absolute immunity as president. The dismissal came 2 days after prosecutors from the Office of Special Counsel Jack Smith noted that Trump's lawyers had talked on television about how they planned to file a motion to dismiss under presidential immunity, but had not yet done so. Submit various requests to postpone the proceedings. But now that it's been filed, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan in the District of Columbia is being asked to throw out the case, arguing that the charges against Trump fall under presidential immunity, meaning he can't be impeached, for his efforts to reverse his losses as part of his official duties as president. To do this, Trump's lawyers will not admit that he lost the 2020 election. Instead, they argue that there were legal fraud allegations under investigation, seizing on the idea of making the broader claim that Trump's efforts were based on the law. Calling on his Department of Justice to do more to enforce the laws for which it is responsible is clearly an official act of the president, Trump's lawyers wrote in one paragraph. At another, early point, they say, the prosecution falsely alleges that President Trump's motives were tainted, that he knew that widespread fraud and election tampering were false, but he still tried to deal with them. As dozens of courts, including Trump appointees, said in 2020, there was nothing to be done. The claims themselves came from either opportunists or from Trump's inner circle, while Donald himself publicly seized on them for spreading dubious claims before they were used as the basis of any deal. Smith also insisted in the indictment that the allegations against Trump were not part of his job. Trump said in his resignation letter that Smith tried to cast doubt on him by saying his motives were dirty. The core of Trump's argument is based on Nixon-era cases that gave the president broad immunity for actions taken while in office. But the Supreme Court held presidents civilly liable, not criminally. Trump is asking the court to extend the principle that immunizes presidents from civil liability to the outer limits of criminal cases. They argue that criminally indicting Trump for his actions during his tenure would create a deep conflict in the separation of powers. To assume otherwise would be to usurp the constitutional role of the president from political opponents, fundamentally undermining our system of government, Trump's lawyers write. This is clearly an argument for the Supreme Court. The show is full of references to how the history and traditions of the country do not include impeachment of former presidents. At one point, Trump's lawyers point to a disputed election in 1824 that had the right to vote in the House of Representatives, as some of the former president's acolytes wanted in 2020. In this case, as in others, Trump and his lawyers ignore a key point. There was no actual fraud, no credible allegation of fraud to raise controversy. Smith adapted Trump's accusation to the issue, arguing that the wild allegations of vote fraud were a cover for efforts to stay in power. In the motion, Trump's lawyers also try to throw some other arguments against the wall, see what might stick. The Senate has already acquitted Trump in the impeachment trial in February 2021. 234 years of history and tradition support presidential immunity from criminal prosecution. So far, the first judge to hear it, Judge Chutkan, has sharply called out Trump and his lawyers for abusing the process. Trump's lawyers said they plan to file additional filings outlining other reasons they believe the case should be thrown out. But in the motion to dismiss, they focus on particular schemes on which Smith built the election interference charge. Trump largely maintains that his alleged actions were within the scope of his duties as president, but the claim takes on a more revealing tone when applied to voter fraud schemes. Trump wrote that fraudulent voters gave Vice President Mike Pence an alternative option for certification. Without them, Trump's efforts would be in vain. He argued that this has to do with the two main functions of the president: to protect the integrity of federal elections and to encourage members of Congress to act in a manner consistent with the president's view of the public interest. There is no further explanation of how they interpret the view of the common good. that's what we have for you today. What do you think of our video? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe, like and hit that share button.